This man went to work in the morning and found that he had left an important document in his study. But when he pushed open the door, he saw his wife's sister lying on the bed. Ren Yiming stared at her for a long time, but in the end, reason prevailed over desire. After calming down, he asked his daughter to go to the study and get the document for him. During breakfast, Lucy curiously asked Sora why she wasn't wearing pants. Sora replied shamelessly that it was very fashionable to dress like that. Shen Anan felt very uncomfortable hearing this, but after all, she was her sister. She could only let her sister stay at her house for now. At noon, Shen Anan accompanied her sister-in-law to watch a fashion show at her husband's company. Ren Yiming saw them and kindly went over to greet his sister and wife. At this moment, a woman behind him saw everything. She then asked Ren Yiming who the woman was. Ren Yiming immediately explained that she was his wife. Liang Yuan mocked her ex-boyfriend for having such poor taste. After saying that, she placed her hand on Ren Yiming's and smiled at Shen Anan. Shen Anan seemed to have noticed the special relationship between the two. Soon, the reporters started cheering for Ren Yiming, the manager, to invite his wife up on stage for a photo. Ren Yiming, wanting to take care of his wife, casually made up an excuse to refuse the reporters. Unexpectedly, Liang Yuan revealed Shen Anan's identity. All the cameras suddenly focused on Shen Anan, making her feel a bit anxious and uneasy. At that moment, the reporters noticed that the clothes Shen Anan was wearing were the latest designs from the company. Liang Yuan mocked Shen Anan, saying that the dress looked ugly on her. Just as Shen Anan was about to leave in embarrassment, Ren Yiming suddenly said that his wife had always been his pride and joy. If she could wear these exquisite and beautiful clothes, she would be just as stunning as any of the models on stage. It was just that she had chosen to put her own brilliance aside and return to her family. Ren Yiming's words touched Shen Anan deeply and diffused Liang Yuan's hostility. When Liang Yuan saw Ren Yiming defend his wife like that, she felt very uncomfortable. She suddenly remembered the time she was with Ren Yiming. That night, Ren Yiming gave his wife a pair of very beautiful high heels. Shen Anan treasured them like a precious treasure and planned to wear them on an important occasion. Unexpectedly, the next day when she went out, her younger sister sneaked into her room and pretended to be the mistress of the villa. Then Sora secretly put on the high heels and jumped around in the room. However, Shen Anan soon realized that she had forgotten her cell phone and returned. When she saw the scene in front of her, she was stunned. Shen Anan angrily asked her why she entered her bedroom without her permission. Sora replied pitifully, "Didn't you say we're family?" But even if they were family, they still had to be polite. And Sora wasn't even Shen Anan's biological sister. Shen Anan angrily told her to take off the high heels. Sora glared at Shen Anan fiercely. Shen Anan wanted to talk to her calmly, but Sora flew into a rage, accusing Shen Anan of not treating her like a sister. After saying that, she stormed out of the room in anger. Sora harbored a deep grudge against Shen Anan. She immediately swore to take everything Shen Anan had. When Ren Yiming returned, Sora immediately put on a pitiful act. She deliberately lied that Shen Anan had kicked her out. Ren Yiming immediately took her home. Sora asked cunningly, "Will your home also be my home?" But Ren Yiming didn't know how to refuse and said, "Of course, you're my wife's sister. We're family." Sora burst into tears upon hearing this. She said she wouldn't bother Shen Anan anymore and would move out tomorrow. Ren Yiming fell for it and told Sora to go back with him to apologize to Shen Anan. Sora was deeply moved and hugged Ren Yiming tightly. She immediately demanded to know if he would abandon her in the future. Ren Yiming didn't know how to respond and only offered a few simple words of comfort. When Sora returned home, she once again demonstrated her acting skills. In just a second, her expression changed from happy to pitiful. She came to Shen Anan, cried, and apologized, saying that she knew she was wrong. Shen Anan immediately softened and said that everything was in the past. The next day at work, Ren Yiming accidentally saw that the company was hiring assistants and interns, so he took a photo and sent it to Sora. At noon, Shen Anan came to bring her husband a lunchbox. Liang Yuan saw the loving couple and felt very uncomfortable. When she left, she encountered Shen Anan waiting for a taxi at the company entrance. Since it was difficult to hail a taxi there, she offered to drive Shen Anan home. After helping Shen Anan fasten her seatbelt, Liang Yuan started criticizing Shen Anan's high heels. "These shoes are pretty, but the color doesn't match your outfit." Shen Anan replied that her husband had given her the shoes and she loved them because they were comfortable. Liang Yuan then mentioned that she and Ren Yiming were going on a business trip to another city in a few days. They had just been discussing the details of the trip in their room. Shen Anan said she didn't mind, but she got out of the car early. When she got home, she seemed distracted. Later, Liang Yuan found Ren Yiming and showed him the business trip itinerary. Ren Yiming immediately felt it was inappropriate for just the two of them to go on a business trip, but Liang Yuan insisted that it was the company leader's arrangement. The next day, Ren Yiming was waiting to take Sora to a job interview at the company. Sora suddenly said she didn't have suitable shoes. Ren Yiming immediately asked her what kind of shoes she wanted. Sora stood up and said she wanted a pair of brighter shoes. Ren Yiming told her to take a pair from Shen Ainen's shoe cabinet. Sora deliberately shook her head and said that she didn't dare to make her sister angry again. Ren Yiming said that what happened last time was in the past. Then Sora went to her sister's closet and violently searched for the red high heels, even though they didn't fit her at all. She still put them on. When the two of them left the house, they happened to run into Shen Ainen, who was bringing her child home. Shen Ainen immediately asked Sora if she was wearing her shoes. Ren Yiming hurriedly explained that he had told Sora to wear them. Shen Ainen said that she had many pairs of high heels and told Sora to change into another pair. Sora immediately told Ren Yiming that she wanted to go back and change her shoes. Ren Yiming said that there wasn't enough time and persuaded his wife to be more generous and not take such a small thing to heart. But Sora just smiled smugly. When Shen Ainen returned to the room and saw the shoeboxes scattered everywhere, she became increasingly angry. That day, two customers walked into the store where Shen Ainen was working. The salesperson enthusiastically approached the middle-aged man. Shen Ainen noticed that the young man looked a little upset, so she walked up to him and greeted him sincerely. She enthusiastically introduced the features and price of the car. The young man directly asked her to show him a more expensive model. Shen Ainen looked around and immediately started introducing him to a sports car. The young man said he wanted to buy the car outright. Shen Ainen was speechless and didn't know what to say. The middle-aged man, who looked more like a wealthy customer, said he would think about it and left. Shen Ainen immediately shared the good news with her colleagues. The young man quickly signed the car purchase contract. However, Ren Fei was speechless after receiving the contract. She had never seen anyone buy a car so quickly. However, a few days later, Shen Ainen received a call from Ren Fei asking for help. Shen Ainen then changed into the red high heels her husband had bought for her. She picked out some desserts she had just made and decided to apologize to Lin Yao. Lin Yao was the young man who had bought the sports car earlier. It turned out that Lin Yao had come to pick up his car today, but Ren Fei had carelessly made a mistake with the paperwork. He was very dissatisfied and specifically asked Shen Ainen to come and handle it. Lin Yao said that a simple apology would not suffice. Shen Ainen continued to apologize sincerely. Suddenly, Lin Yao felt a sharp pain in his stomach. Shen Ainen immediately recognized that it was caused by drinking too much coffee on an empty stomach. She quickly gave Lin Yao an acupressure massage. Lin Yao was momentarily stunned but eventually accepted their apology. He then took a small bite of the pastry Shen Ainen had given him, and an amused expression appeared on his face. However, the next day when Lin Yao came to pick up his car again, Ren Fei had mistakenly written his name again. He ordered Ren Fei to fix it within half an hour and demanded that Shen Ainen accompany him for a test drive. Shen Ainen hesitated but agreed for Ren Fei's sake. Meanwhile, Ren Yiming was preparing to bring Sora to the company for an interview. He noticed Sora was nervous and shared some interview tips. Sora's sudden action startled Ren Yiming. During the interview, Sora, who had already learned about Liang Yuan's personality traits, performed smoothly. When Liang Yuan found out about Sora's special relationship with Ren Yiming, she immediately rejected Sora on the grounds that she was a college student with no experience. The arrogant Sora immediately spoke recklessly, but she was no match for Liang Yuan. After leaving, Sora angrily threw her high heels to the ground. This scene was witnessed by the CEO. After chatting with Sora, the CEO became very interested in her. He immediately informed Liang Yuan that he wanted to hire this girl. Ren Yiming noticed that Sora's feet were blistered and kindly applied ointment for her. Their behavior was very intimate. He then gave Sora a pair of Shen Ainen's slippers. At that moment, Liang Yuan called Ren Yiming and told Sora to come to work tomorrow. Sora was thrilled and threw herself into Ren Yiming's arms. She then said tearfully that she was afraid of being bullied by Liang Yuan. Ren Yiming told her not to worry and that he would help her transfer to a different position. Sora was deeply moved and grabbed Ren Yiming's hand in gratitude. The two then went to a cafe to discuss work. Shen Ainen sent Sora a text message asking her to arrange her dinner on her own. She had made plans with her husband to take their daughter out for a nice dinner. Sora saw this and smiled mischievously, but when she saw Shen Ainen call Ren Yiming, she quickly covered the phone with her book. Shen Ainen had no choice but to call her husband's company. His colleague told her that Ren Yiming had already left the office. Only then did Ren Yiming realize that he had missed his wife's call. Seeing the 5 missed calls from his wife on his phone, he hurriedly called her back. He lied and said that he had been in a meeting at the office. Shen Ainen only asked him if he was still at the office and didn't expose his lie. At this moment, their daughter said, Daddy is so bad. Shin Anan comforted her daughter, saying that Daddy works very hard and she shouldn't say that. At night, Ron Yiming came home with Sora. Sora was worried that Shin Anan would misunderstand and told Rin Yiming to wait outside. As soon as she entered the room, she casually threw Shin Anan's high heels on the ground. Then she hugged Shin Anan and told her about her job interview that day. At that moment, Shin Anan suddenly realized that the perfume scent on her husband's body was the same as Sora's. She looked at the worn-out high heels and was about to scold Sora, but her husband returned at that moment. Sora immediately pretended to greet Rin Yiming. Then she deliberately played the victim, saying that she had to squeeze onto the bus and wait for the subway tomorrow. Ren Yiming heard this and said that she could take her to work in his car tomorrow. I really admire Shin Anan for being so patient. Sora saw Ren Yiming hugging her sister and started to have evil thoughts again. Her goal was to make Ren Yiming hers. The next day, Sora saw Ren Yiming come back from his morning run and deliberately turned on the lawn sprinkler. Then she stood on the lawn and started dancing. Her actions completely captivated Ren Yiming. Shin Anan's daughter said she hated Sora, her aunt. At the company, Liang Yuan deliberately assigned Sora a lot of work. Soon it was lunchtime, and Ren Yiming stood at the door, showing concern for Sora. As soon as Sora saw her brother, she felt like she had found her savior. But Liang Yuan directly pulled Ren Yiming away and asked him to take her out to dinner. Sora was very angry when she saw this. When Ren Yiming brought her lunch, she deliberately ate with her male colleagues. She did this to deliberately provoke Ren Yiming. At this moment, Lin Yao arrived at the villa and gave his mother an expensive necklace. Her mother asked Lin Yao how he was getting along with his wild girlfriend abroad. Lin Yao said that he was single and didn't have a girlfriend. Soon after, the manager angrily asked Ren Fei why the car purchase contract had the name of a stranger on it. Ren Fei explained to the manager the details of the car sale that day. She also said that Lin Yao was the most difficult customer she had ever dealt with because he was so picky about the car. However, the next moment, Lin Yao appeared behind her. He stated that from now on, he would be the new owner of the store. Shortly after, Shin Anan received another call from Ren Fei. She immediately rushed to the office to plead with Ren Fei. However, Lin Yao insisted that unless Shin Anan agreed to date him, he would not back down. Upon returning home, Shin Anan looked at the high heels her sister had ruined and felt heartbroken. She planned to have them repaired. After all, they were a gift from her husband. The repairer asked her if she had worn the shoes for a long time and if they were damaged both inside and out. These words further provoked Shin Anan. Shin Anan recalled her husband's indifference towards her in recent days and finally decided to have the shoes repaired. A few days later, she went to the repair shop to pick up the shoes, but she was surprised to find that the color of the shoes was quite different from before. Shin Anan became so emotional that she couldn't even repair the cracks in the shoes. She thought about what she had seen in the study last night and felt very upset. It turned out that Sora had intentionally asked a male colleague from the company to send her home. Ron Yiming saw Sora walking closely with another man and felt jealous. Sora said she didn't want him to let her interact with other men and asked him to tell her if he saw anything. Ron Yiming said he had no right to interfere with Sora's conversations with others. Sora immediately hugged Ren Yiming's waist and slowly moved closer. Ron Yiming's resolve began to weaken, but he ultimately resisted. He pushed Sora aside and was about to enter the study when Shin Anan happened to walk upstairs and witnessed the scene. The two quickly acted as if nothing had happened and started talking about work. Shin Anan felt she couldn't let her sister stay at home anymore, so she called her mother. Sora had found a job and could move out of her house. However, her mother told her to be more tolerant of Sora, but Shin Anan felt uneasy seeing her husband's excessive concern for Sora. That day, after dropping her husband off at the company, she went to a real estate agency to look for a place for Sora. The agent told her that there would be a batch of apartments available next month at a more favorable price. Shin Anan had just finished looking at the apartments when Lin Yao asked her out again. He thought it was such a waste for Shin Anan to be a housewife. He wanted Shin Anan to come work at his company. Shin Anan also felt that her presence as a full-time housewife was becoming less and less. She was clearly there, but her husband couldn't see her. Lin Yao told her to think about it and that he could wait. At the company, Ron Yiming angrily pulled Sora aside and asked her if she was desperate for love. Sora said that she would be with whoever loved her. Ron Yiming thought she was being too naive. Their conversation was overheard by Miho, who happened to be passing by. Miho advised his brother-in-law to stop immediately and not do anything reckless. Afterwards, the president asks Sora to accompany him to a dinner party that evening. Before leaving, Sora calls after him and asks pitifully if she is dressed appropriately. The president looks her up and down and says that there are clothes prepared for models in the company's dressing room. Afterwards, Sora deliberately walks past Rin Yiming, infuriating him. That night, Shin Anan plans to go on a trip with Rin Yiming to celebrate their wedding anniversary. She presented several options for Rin Yiming to choose from. Rin Yiming casually replied that any of them would do. He then asked his wife to remind Sora not to get too close to male colleagues at work. Shin Anan curiously asked why her husband mentioned Sora when discussing the trip. After all, Sora was an adult and knew how to behave. Ron Yiming suddenly saw Sora's latest post. He lied to his wife that he was going out to get some fresh air, but in fact he went to pick up Sora, who was drunk outside his door. Sora refused to go home and live with him. As they struggled, she suddenly threw herself into Rin Yiming's arms and kissed him. Sora said that if Rin Yiming let her stay, she would stay. She never wanted to hurt Rin Yiming's family. Shin Anan thought about her husband's suspicious behavior over the past few days. Although she had no evidence, she was still heartbroken, so she called Lin Yao and agreed to go to work at his company. The next day, Ren Yiming was excited to hear on his way to work that his wife was going on a 2-day business trip. After dropping her husband off at work, Shin Anan went to pick up her mother. She planned to ask her mother to help take care of her daughter while she was away. Ron Yiming had just arrived at work when he received a text message from Sora. "I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. Don't worry about me. I just took my medicine. From now on, I will disappear from your world." After reading the text message, Ron Yiming immediately jumped up from his chair. He was worried that Sora would do something stupid, so he rushed back home. However, Sora said that she had taken medicine to reduce her fever. Then she exposed the scar on her abdomen and said that it was from her first suicide attempt. Ren Yiming couldn't bear to see Sora looking so pitiful. However, Sora exposed the scar on her shoulder again. Every time she saw Ren Yiming and Shin Anan together, she would cut herself. After saying that, Sora wanted to stab herself again. Ren Yiming saw this and hurriedly stopped her. As the two pushed and shoved, Sora pushed Ren Yiming onto the bed. Then, something that shouldn't have happened between the two of them. At this moment, Shin Anan returned to the villa with her mother. She was very surprised to see her husband's leather shoes in front of the door. She asked her mother to sit in the living room for a while, but looking at the stairs in front of her, Shin Anan didn't dare to go up. She was afraid that she would see something terrible. Just as she was struggling to walk up to the second floor, Ren Yiming came out of the dressing room looking very calm. Ren Yiming explained that he had accidentally gotten his clothes dirty at the company and came back to change. Only when he got into the car did her heart finally settle down. It turned out that Ren Yiming had noticed his wife and mother-in-law returning through the window earlier. He hurriedly poured some ink on his shirt and made up these lies. When Shin Anan saw the undried stains on the shirt, she seemed to understand everything. For a moment, she wanted to beat Sora to death. Her mother asked Shin Anan to check if Sora had a fever. Sora told her aunt that she was fine. After hearing this, Shin Anan directly threw a basin of water on Sora's face. Her mother's voice telling her to change the water brought her back to reality. It turned out that it was all Shin Anan's hallucination. Shin Anan reluctantly changed the water as her mother told her to, but thinking back to how her husband used to care for her and speak sweet words to her, she felt as if the whole world had collapsed. The next day, Lin Yao found her and told her about a company team-building outing. Lin Yao could see at a glance that Shin Anan had something on her mind, so he played the role of a good listener. He told Shin Anan that the best way to resolve confusion and uncertainty was to find something to work hard and devote herself to. Shin Anan didn't expect Lin Yao to be so young and yet know so much about marriage. Lin Yao told her the story of his mother. After listening, Shin Anan also felt that high-quality singleness was indeed better than a low-quality marriage. At night, Ren Fei listened to Shin Anan's complaints. She thought that in this situation, it was even more important not to leave home and to keep a close eye on her brother. But Shin Anan said that she wanted to distance herself instead, because she knew that what was meant to happen would happen anyway. On the first day of Shin Anan's business trip, Sora booked a room at the hotel. Ron Yiming looked at the hotel address Sora sent him and felt hungry and thirsty. After thinking it over and over again, he finally went to his mother-in-law's side and lied that he had urgent business to attend to at work. When Ren Yiming arrived at the hotel entrance, he got scared. He sent Sora a text message saying that he had arrived. Sora thought for a moment and replied that she was in room 301. Then she went to the mirror to tidy up her carefully designed outfit and happily went to open the door for Ren Yiming. At this moment, Ron Yiming was still nervously rehearsing what he was going to say outside the hotel room door. However, in the next second, he was suddenly pulled into the room by Sora. At this time, Shin Anan was away on a business trip for training, but she was worried about her family and couldn't concentrate. After a morning of training, she realized that the dreamer she once was now gone. Now, all she wanted to do was cook for her family every day. Lin Yao told her that everyone is an independent individual and should not lose themselves for marriage. Ren Yiming and Sora had a passionate moment and then went to the supermarket. However, just as Sora was about to stick to Ren Yiming to take a photo, Liang Yuan unexpectedly ran into the two of them at the supermarket. She immediately asked Ren Yiming why he wasn't with his wife. Ren Yiming was flustered when he saw his ex-girlfriend and rival, so he hurriedly left. Sora told Ren Yiming to wait for her in the car. She planned to stay behind and teach Liang Yuan a lesson. She secretly stuffed snacks from the supermarket into Liang Yuan's clothes. When she came out, Sora saw Ren Yiming looking distraught. She asked Ren Yiming why he cared so much about Liang Yuan. Ren Yiming was afraid that bad rumors would affect his promotion. Sora was not convinced, saying that Liang Yuan had no evidence. Besides, she didn't have the energy to worry about herself right now. I guess it'll be hard for him to get out of this supermarket. At that moment, Liang Yuan had just finished paying at the supermarket and was about to leave when she heard the alarm go off. She felt around her body and found an extra snack in her pocket. Liang Yuan secretly vowed to teach Sora a lesson. At this moment, Shananen was video chatting with her daughter and found that Sora was teaching her daughter incorrect values while she was away. Then she found that her daughter had been scratching her arm. It turned out that her daughter was allergic to perfume. Her mother told Shananen that Ren Yiming was working overtime and was not at home. When Shananen found out that Sora wasn't home either, she immediately understood what was going on. She was furious and hurriedly got up to leave without saying goodbye. Intending to rush back home, Lin Yao heard the news and was furious. He drove to the estate gate and blocked Shananen's car. He knew that Shananen suddenly wanting to go home must have a reason. He offered to drive Shananen directly to the station. On the car, Shananen sent her husband 2 text messages but didn't receive a reply. Seeing her distracted state, Lin Yao felt uneasy and offered to drive her home. Thus, Lin Yao, a high-ranking executive, personally drove Shananen home for several hours. However, just as Shananen was about to get out of the car, she saw her husband driving back. Sora got out of the passenger seat and hugged Ren Yiming. Although Shananen had mentally prepared herself, she found it hard to believe what she was seeing with her own eyes. Meanwhile, Lin Yao was no less composed. After all, Sora was his spoiled girlfriend abroad. Lin Yao reminded Shananen that she wasn't mentally prepared and should not go home for now. After thanking Lin Yao for his kindness, Shananen got out of the car and left. When Ren Yiming heard Sora call out to Shananen, he nearly wet his pants in shock. Sora awkwardly fled the scene. Just as she returned to the car to retrieve her phone, she unexpectedly bumped into the man who had left a lasting impression on her. Excitedly, she rushed into the villa and demanded to know who the man was. Shananen ignored her and told her husband to go back to the room to talk things out. She wanted to give her husband another chance to admit his mistake, but Ren Yiming was still working overtime at the company and just happened to meet Sora at the door. The sound of their argument quickly woke their sleeping daughter. The daughter asked Shananen if her father had done something wrong. If her father had done something wrong, he should be beaten. After settling her daughter down, Shananen went to Sora's room. She told Sora to move out of the house by tomorrow at the latest. Sora shamelessly asked why, if she felt that she was getting too close to Ren Yiming and couldn't accept it. The two had a heated argument. What Shananen couldn't accept the most was that Sora was teaching her daughter all sorts of nonsense. She told Sora to pack her bags and leave early the next morning. Sora tried to use their sisterly bond to emotionally blackmail her. The next morning, Shananen told her mother about what happened. Her mother advised her to be more tolerant and think about the children. If Ren Yiming could truly repent, she should give him another chance. Later, while the family was having breakfast, Sora picked up her suitcase and prepared to leave. As she bid farewell to everyone, Shananen and her mother refused to speak a word to her. Ren Yiming trembled nervously, chewing on his bread. Sora watched Ren Yiming's bitter smile as she left, then smiled maliciously. No one knew what scheme she was plotting. That night, Shananen chose to sleep in a separate bed from her husband. The next day, Ren Yiming was late for work because no one reminded him. When he arrived at the company, the president asked him if he had enjoyed shopping yesterday. The president ordered him to go on a business trip with Liang Yuan. Ren Yiming dared not disobey the president's orders. Later, Sora came to greet Ren Yiming and brought him breakfast. Liang Yuan deliberately told Sora about the business trip with Ren Yiming to get back at her. She also deliberately said that she was going to a beach town to swim in a bikini. Sora then asked Ren Yiming if he could take her with him. Ren Yiming said that he was going to work, not to play. Sora followed Liang Yuan to the restroom and confronted her. Liang Yuan warned her to be honest or she would be fired. Sora asked Liang Yuan why she was always bothering Ren Yiming. Seeing Sora's furious expression, Liang Yuan deliberately said that she and Ren Yiming did indeed have a history. Sora could only take her anger out on Ren Yiming, so she deliberately acted affectionately toward a male colleague. Ren Yiming saw this in the office and was furious. He immediately warned Sora to calm down. Sora said that she and Ren Yiming could only tolerate Shananen between them. Ren Yiming, to prevent anyone from the company from seeing them, forcibly dragged the emotionally agitated Sora back to the rental house. This house was also paid for by Ren Yiming for Sora. Ren Yiming promised that he would definitely take responsibility for Sora. Sora also said that without Ren Yiming, she really couldn't go on living. Before long, the two couldn't help but kiss each other. However, the entire scene was witnessed by Ren Yiming's brother-in-law. Miho then told his wife about what happened. Ren Fei wanted to teach Sora a lesson for being such a bad woman. Shananen was cooking when she received a call from Sora. Sora said that Ren Yiming was too tired and had fallen asleep at her place. She even thanked Shananen for kicking her out, saying that was why Ren Yiming rented a small apartment for her. After hanging up, Sora didn't forget to send a text message mocking Shananen as the best sister in the world. She also attached a beautiful photo of Ren Yiming. After seeing it, Shananen staggered and cut up her husband's photos. She no longer had any hope for Ren Yiming, but she felt very sorry for her daughter's feelings. Ren Fei was worried that her sister-in-law might be in trouble, so she didn't answer her phone and took a day off to rush over. When she saw that her sister-in-law had already packed her luggage, she felt very sorry for her. At that moment, Sora received a long-awaited call. Lin Yao asked Sora what her relationship with Ren Yiming was. Sora asked him how he suddenly became so concerned about her love life. Lin Yao was so angry that he hung up the phone. He didn't expect Sora to be so shameless. Soon after, Ren Yiming realized that he was late again. When he found out that his wife had discovered everything, he panicked. Ren Yiming was about to grab his bag and leave, but Sora threw herself into his arms. Sora asked him if he wanted to abandon her. Ren Yiming hurriedly comforted her and told her not to think nonsense. After hearing this, Sora showed a look of triumph on her face. When Ren Yiming got home, he begged his wife to give him another chance. Shananen no longer believed his lies. She still remembered that at her father's funeral, Ren Yiming had sworn to take good care of her. The next day, Ren Yiming saw that his wife was still ignoring him. He coaxed his daughter to go ask her mother to plead for him, but his daughter didn't want to have anything to do with him. Late at night, Ren Yiming saw Sora's calls and turned off his phone. The next day, Shananen took her husband to work for the last time and ran into Liang Yuan, so she greeted him. Sora, who was nearby, saw this and was filled with jealousy. She then found Ren Yiming and demanded to know what the relationship between Shananen and Liang Yuan was. Ren Yiming saw her being so unreasonable and didn't want to deal with her. He hurriedly shook off Sora's hand and walked away awkwardly. Sora, furious, rushed into Liang Yuan's office. However, Liang Yuan didn't indulge her at all. Before leaving, she said she would take good care of Shananen. 2 days later, Liang Yuan and Ren Yiming finished work and went to the beach for a big meal. Before eating, Liang Yuan took a photo and posted it on social media. Sora saw the photo and flew into a rage, immediately calling Ren Yiming to confront him. Ren Yiming couldn't tolerate her behavior and hung up the phone. Sora was so angry she nearly fainted on the spot. Late at night, she found Liang Yuan's old social media account. She discovered that he had indeed been in a romantic relationship with Ren Yiming. At this point, Sora was on the brink of a mental breakdown. She called Ren Yiming but couldn't get through. She then made a video call to Liang Yuan. However, just then, Ren Yiming suddenly appeared on the screen, and the call was hung up the next second. Sora went crazy and rushed to Shananen's house, ranting and raving. Shananen also thought Sora might be mentally unstable. However, her even crazier behavior was yet to come. She picked up a fork and held it to her throat, begging Shananen to call Ren Yiming. She wanted to confirm what Ren Yiming had done with Liang Yuan. Shananen didn't want to deal with this crazy woman. Unexpectedly, Sora pounced on her like a mad dog and grabbed her phone. As the two struggled, Sora cut Shananen's arm with the fork. Sora continued to beg Shananen to call Ren Yiming immediately. Shananen kicked the crazy woman out of the house. Liang Yuan, who was drunk, confessed her feelings in the hotel. At first, when they broke up, she didn't understand why they hadn't ended up together. But after seeing Shananen, she realized that she was a good woman. If she hadn't seen Ren Yiming with Sora at the supermarket that day, she would have truly believed that Ren Yiming was one of the few good men in the world. Ren Yiming said that Shananen would forgive him, and that he believed their family wasn't that fragile. Liang Yuan reminded Ren Yiming to be careful of Sora. After leaving, Ren Yiming looked at the countless voice messages Sora had sent him and felt overwhelmed. He helplessly called Sora. Sora immediately scolded him for having no taste for falling for Liang Yuan. That old woman. Ren Yiming made a promise to calm Sora down. That night, Sora came to the company and did something extremely crazy. A day later, Ren Yiming returned, and Sora was very happy. Since business had been good recently, Liang Yuan invited everyone out for dinner and drinks that night. Everyone let loose. But Sora was the only one Liang Yuan kept behind to work overtime at the company. Shen Anan had packed her husband's luggage, but he hadn't come to pick it up yet. She planned to take the luggage to her husband's company with Ren Fei. However, when Shen Anan arrived at the office, she saw Sora doing something unspeakable. Sora showed no shame and even said it was more fun here. Ron Yiming's scalp was tingling, but he could only stare at the video call in frustration. Shen Anan wiped away her tears and walked up to Sora, pointing at the surveillance camera and telling her to look up. Shen Anan decided that everyone in the company had to see this scene. Ren Yiming begged her not to do it. Sora panicked and chased after Shen Anan to stop her. Ren Fei directly knocked this bad woman to the ground. The two of them didn't agree on anything and started scolding each other, even fighting in the office. Sora didn't get the upper hand at all. At night, Ron Yiming, who was drunk, wanted to go home to confess to his wife, but was locked out. Ren Yiming begged his wife to open the door and give him a chance to explain. Shen Anan told him not to be delusional. Ren Yiming walks away, regretting every moment he spent with Shen Anan. The next day, Shen Anan suddenly sees a message in the parents' group chat and remembers that she forgot to prepare snacks for her daughter. Just as she is about to go out to buy ingredients, she runs into Lin Yao. Lin Yao confesses to her that Sora is his ex-girlfriend. He tells Shen Anan that Sora is dangerous and has a history of extreme behavior. Lin Yao had no choice but to apply for a restraining order against Sora. The scar on his arm was from Sora cutting him. Shen Anan said that Sora had nothing to do with her anymore. Afterward, Lin Yao accompanied Shen Anan shopping and helped her make a cake. Lin Yao found himself enjoying every moment spent with Shen Anan. He gradually grew fond of this feeling. Meanwhile, the CEO confronted Liang Yuan, accusing her of embezzlement. Liang Yuan claimed someone was framing her. The CEO suggested she take a leave of absence. Liang Yuan couldn't tolerate the humiliation and immediately applied for an independent investigation agency and submitted her resignation. Later, when she went to the restroom, she was confronted by Sora. Sora provoked her, demanding she behave herself. Liang Yuan grabbed her by the hair and dragged her out of the restroom. In front of everyone at the company, she threw Sora onto the desk. Immediately after, Liang Yuan slapped Sora across the face with force. Sora burst into tears of sorrow. The CEO scolded Liang Yuan, telling her to calm down and that she was still an employee representing the company's image. Liang Yuan said that from the moment she resigned, she was no longer an employee of the company. Then, in front of everyone, she leaned over and whispered 2 sentences in Sora's ear. Sora was so scared that she didn't dare say another word. Liang Yuan stood up straight and solemnly told everyone that today was her last day at the company. During her time at work, she took every project seriously and signed several big contracts. She was very strict at work and had high expectations of her subordinates. She just wanted to tell everyone that the workplace was never a place for enjoyment. She hoped everyone would work diligently instead of taking shortcuts. Liang Yuan finished speaking and left the company with a flourish. All the employees immediately burst into enthusiastic applause. Sora was left alone, crying so hard she wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. The president watched Liang Yuan standing by the river, gazing into the distance, captivated by the charm she exuded. After Liang Yuan left, Ren Yiming no longer had any competitors. The president naturally gave Liang Yuan's position to Ren Yiming, who would be announced as the new head next week. He subtly reminded Ren Yiming to handle his family affairs properly and not let them affect his work. Next month, the company would be holding an important event. The president hoped that Ren Yiming would bring his wife with him. But now that Ren Yiming had been kicked out of his home by his wife, what was he supposed to do? Without realizing it, he walked back to his former home and happened to see his daughter crying and saying that she missed him. Ren Yiming, though heartbroken, wisely left. That night, Sora saw Ren Yiming looking gloomy because of his child. She suggested waiting until Shen Anan's mood improved before bringing Lucy over. Thus, Sora successfully lured Lucy away. Shen Anan's mother, seeing her granddaughter missing while playing outside, anxiously called her daughter. At that moment, Sora had arranged to meet Ren Yiming, saying she had a surprise for him. When Ren Yiming saw his daughter, he was overjoyed, but after calming down, he confronted Sora, demanding to know how the child had ended up there. Just as he reached for his phone to call Shen Anan, Sora snatched the phone away and lied, saying Shen Anan had agreed to let Lucy stay for dinner. Ren Yiming didn't think much of it. Shen Anan, unable to find her daughter, called Ren Yiming but was hung up on by Sora. Sora claimed it was a prank call and told Ren Yiming to relax and enjoy his meal. Shen Anan searched from day to night, asking many people but heard no trace of her daughter. Just as she was about to cry and call the police, she heard her daughter's voice behind her. Sora saw Shen Anan's distraught appearance and mocked her, saying that she should give Lucy's custody to her and Ren Yiming. She said that Shen Anan was a housewife who relied on Ren Yiming for all her living expenses. How could someone who couldn't even support herself support a child? Shen Anan finally understood that she had never been in control of her own life. So the next day, she showed up at Lin Yao's company. Lin Yao gave her a chance to be evaluated. In 2 weeks, an evaluator from headquarters would come, and whether she stayed or left would depend on Shen Anan's own efforts. During this time, Shen Anan worked hard to improve herself so that she could be with her daughter. That night, Ran Yiming was busy working when Sara came over and said sweetly, "Brother, you've been working hard. Is there anything I can do to help?" Ran Yiming saw that she wanted to help him, so he asked her to wash his clothes. Sara said she would call the dry cleaner right away to pick up the clothes. Ran Yiming didn't understand why she didn't use the washing machine at home. Why wouldn't Sara even do such a small thing? Sara raised her hand and said that she had just done her nails. Sara raised her hand and said she had just gotten her nails done. She also told Ran Yiming to hire a maid to do the housework. She didn't want to end up like Shen Anan, a housewife. Ran Yiming heard this and felt angry. Sara accused Ran Yiming of leaving Shen Anan because he found life inconvenient. Seeing that he didn't want to talk to her, she picked up a glass of red wine and poured it directly onto Ran Yiming's computer. Ran Yiming was furious because he hadn't saved his work files. Seeing this, Sara immediately pretended to be pitiful. Ran Yiming was speechless and told her to go to bed first. Sara refused to go into the room unless he kissed her. Ran Yiming finished his work and looked at the clothes scattered everywhere and the takeout trash all over the table. He sighed and started cleaning up. At that moment, he must have really missed Shen Anan. The next day was Shen Anan's interview day, and she still chose to wear the same pair of red high heels. The interviewer was very dissatisfied with today's interview. Lin Yao told him to take another look at the next candidate. He was very confident in this person because the next one was Shen Anan. Shen Anan told Lin Yao that she wouldn't let him down. After the interview, Lin Yao waited obediently at the door. Soon, Shen Anan came out. She walked to the trash can, took a deep breath, and took off her high heels. Lin Yao was overjoyed to hear that she had passed the interview. He then called out to Shen Anan, telling her not to walk barefoot because she would catch a cold. Sara said that Renfei would come to pick her up soon to go shopping for new shoes. Lin Yao saw Shen Anan's happy expression and felt inexplicably happy as well. After buying new shoes, Shen Anan heard about Liang Yuan's resignation. Renfei said that Liang Yuan now had a very bad reputation in the industry and no one dared to hire her anymore. At that moment, a jewelry executive in his 50s gave Liang Yuan a piece of jewelry. This old man wanted to give Liang Yuan a happy home, but Liang Yuan had always had a strong sense of right and wrong. She told him that every pearl had to go through a lot of darkness. People also had to go through pain. If they gave up halfway, they would only fade away. That night, Ran Yiming called Shen Anan and asked her to accompany him to a company event the day after tomorrow. Shen Anan agreed, considering the custody of her daughter. Ran Yiming's face turned green when he saw that Sara had brought pizza again. Before long, Sara came out carrying 2 bags of clothes, saying that they were dresses for the day after tomorrow. Ran Yiming said that only family members could attend the banquet this time. Sara immediately flew into a rage and demanded to know what Shen Anan had done to deserve this. She also claimed that without her, Ran Yiming would never have been promoted. Upon hearing that Liang Yuan had been framed by Sara, Ran Yiming became furious. He was a man and didn't want to resort to such underhanded tactics against Liang Yuan. Sara retorted that there was no such thing as fair competition in this world. Ran Yiming was left speechless. Soon, it was the night of the banquet. Sara confronted Ran Yiming, asking why Shen Anan hadn't arrived yet. She then mocked Shen Anan, saying that it was her first time attending such a banquet and she might not know where to go. Ran Yiming decided to go to the entrance to greet her. However, as soon as he reached the entrance, a sports car sped toward him. Shen Anan got out of the car in a black evening gown and shocked everyone present. Even the president, who had seen countless beautiful models, couldn't help but praise Shen Anan's beauty. He envied Ran Yiming for being so lucky. Sara also didn't expect that her sister would look so much prettier than herself after dressing up. When Ran Yiming came out to greet her, Shen Anan naturally didn't let him get his way and walked in herself. Sara was furious that everyone was praising Shen Anan's beauty. Shen Anan's stunning appearance was all thanks to Lin Yao's efforts. Not only did he buy Shen Anan an expensive outfit, he even arranged for her to be a sales manager. When he heard that Shen Anan planned to take a taxi there that night, Lin Yao was speechless. He immediately handed Shen Anan the keys to his sports car. At the banquet, Shen Anan smiled and handed Boss Chen her business card. Boss Chen also said that he would buy a luxury car when he had time. However, Ran Yiming had a long face the whole time and was extremely embarrassed. Just as he was about to put his arm around Shen Anan, she made an excuse to get up. Sara then mocked Shen Anan, saying that she was the center of attention because of her beautiful clothes. If Shin Anan had dressed like this earlier, Ron Yiming might not have had an affair with her. Sara also thought that Shin Anan dressed so beautifully tonight to compete with her for Ren Yiming. Shin Anan didn't want to deal with her and prepared to leave. She stepped forward to block her way and said that Shin Anan was really scheming. What tricks did you use to get Ren Yiming to bring you to the banquet? Shin Anan explained that Ren Yiming had begged her to come. She also mentioned that she had already handed the divorce agreement to Ren Yiming. She asked Sora to tell Ren Yiming to sign it as soon as he got home that night. Sora was furious and immediately grabbed a male colleague to try to provoke Ren Yiming. The male colleague had already seen through Sora's true nature when their boss, Liang Yuan, had resigned. When Sora tried to throw herself into his arms, he stepped away immediately. This scene caught the attention of everyone present. Sora's fall became the laughingstock of the entire gathering. Ren Yiming saw this, helped her up, and took her outside, intending to send her home first. But Sora went into a frenzy again, shouting and screaming outside. She even provoked Shin Anan, claiming that Ren Yiming actually loved her. Boss Chen couldn't stand it anymore and scolded Ren Yiming to take Sora back home immediately. The banquet ended in chaos due to Sora's outburst. Boss Chen also set his sights on Shin Anan as his next target. After returning home, Sora continued to throw a tantrum. Ren Yiming confronted her, asking why she had done such a shameful thing in public. He pushed her to the ground and left. At this moment, Sara curses her brother for being a fool. She feels very sorry for Shin Anan. Her husband tells her not to blame herself. Shin Anan looks fine tonight, so it should be fine. Shin Anan returns home and takes off her shiny jewelry. She tells her mother about what happened today. Her mother tells her that only vulgar people care about appearances. The next day, Shin Anan goes to a hair salon and cuts her long hair. Even with short hair, Shin Anan was still beautiful and captivated Lin Yao. That day, Boss Chen came to the store. A man's intuition made Lin Yao feel hostile toward Boss Chen. It turned out that Boss Chen had come to buy a car, but his real purpose was to impress Shin Anan. Under the heavy pressure, Ren Yiming also felt an unprecedented sense of crisis. After learning that Boss Chen was pursuing Shin Anan, he ran straight to the shop. He shamelessly tried to win back Shin Anan's love. Lin Yao said that it was Shin Anan's working hours. That day, Ren Yiming suddenly received a call from his wife asking him to come home that night. Ren Yiming was excited, thinking that his wife had forgiven him. Before long, Sara came looking for him. She confronted Ren Yiming, asking if he was going home. Ren Yiming immediately explained that he was going home to see the children. It turned out that there was an activity at Lucy's kindergarten the day after tomorrow, and the children needed their fathers to accompany them. Shin Anan, not wanting to disappoint or hurt her daughter, had no choice but to call Ren Yiming. She asked Ren Yiming to come home that night to discuss the details of the family activity. Sara wanted to go with Ren Yiming that night. Ren Yiming refused to take her along. Shin Anan must be furious. Sara said she would wait at home obediently. Ren Yiming found her behavior today a bit odd. However, soon after, strange noises came from the women's restroom at the company. Sara came out, and the ashtray and trash can inside were scattered all over the floor. It was almost time to leave work, and Ren Yiming left the office early. But just as he opened the car door to go home and find Shin Anan, Miho suddenly rushed over and told him that Sora was injured. Ren Yiming rushed to the hospital and saw Sora lying pitifully in the hospital bed. The nurse told Ren Yiming that Sora had only suffered external injuries and was not seriously hurt, but she needed to stay in the hospital for observation. Sara asked Ren Yiming not to leave, otherwise she would be scared. Ren Yiming immediately looked very distressed. Sora started acting cute again. Ren Yiming had no choice but to agree to stay with her that night. Sora hugged Ren Yiming tightly and smiled triumphantly. At that moment, Lucy was crying loudly at home. Shin Anan's heart broke seeing her daughter so sad. Early the next morning, Ren Yiming lied to Sora, saying he had to go to work. Before leaving, Sora called him back and asked him to come home early that night. She would cook dinner for Ren Yiming herself. As soon as he left, she called a restaurant. When Shin Anan saw Ren Yiming, she didn't give him a friendly look. Ren Yiming, however, easily calmed his daughter down with a few lies. At that moment, Sara sent a text message to Shin Anan with a smug expression. She asked Shin Anan if she wanted to know why Ren Yiming didn't come home last night. Shin Anan immediately understood everything and walked straight to the dining table to take a family photo. She then sent the photo to Sora. Sara saw the message in the photo and was furious. She immediately called Ren Yiming. Ren Yiming saw the call coming in, glanced at Shin Anan, and hung up. However, Sora kept calling repeatedly. Shin Anan sent her daughter upstairs. then took Ren Yiming's phone and answered it. She told Sora to stop calling because she and Ren Yiming were eating and couldn't answer the phone. Shenanian told Ren Yiming that her daughter had an important school activity at 1 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Ren Yiming asked Shenanian to give him another chance. He swore that he would take care of everything. However, Shenanian didn't want to hear his promises anymore. I only hope that no matter what you do in the future, no matter who you deceive, please don't involve me anymore. Now, Ren Yiming only had one identity in Shenanian's eyes, Lucy's father. If he couldn't even fulfill that role properly, then he had no meaning to them. Ren Yiming turned pale upon hearing this and didn't know what to do. Soon after, an unexpected visitor arrived at Shenanian's mother's house. When she saw that it was Sora, she immediately tried to close the door, but Sora said that she had something to say about Lucy. Hearing that it was about her granddaughter, Shenanian's mother let Sora in. Sora asked her aunt to persuade Shenanian to hurry up and file for divorce from Ren Yiming. She also said that Ren Yiming had not divorced Shenanian because he still had feelings for her. Shenanian's mother was both angry and speechless. She couldn't bear to talk to this crazy woman anymore. During this time, Boss Chen would often come to the store to buy a car from Shenanian. Lin Yao was annoyed by the other man's suspicious gaze. He asked Shenanian if she was tired from smiling at him for so long. Shenanian replied that as a salesperson, she should always maintain a smile. This response left Lin Yao speechless. Watching Shenanian leave, he only dared to complain in a low voice. Ren Yiming was scared by Sora and stayed at the company every day, afraid to go home. When he looked at the old family photo, he regretted it deeply. After returning to work, Shenanian sold cars during the day and taught netizens how to make desserts on livestream at night. The next day, she brought the desserts she made to share with her colleagues, and everyone praised them. After that, Lin Yao asked to talk to her about work. Shenanian carefully noticed that the other party's stomach was hurting again, so she gave Lin Yao a box of pastries she had made herself. Afterwards, the two went out to meet with a client. Shenanian saw that Lin Yao's stomach was uncomfortable and he was drinking coffee, so she snatched it away. Afterwards, the two talked about work again. Lin Yao thought Shenanian was very attentive and responsible, so he wanted her to be his secretary. Shenanian felt that she already had enough work and didn't want to take on anymore. Lin Yao disagrees and starts acting cute. Shenanian thinks he is cute and reminds her of her daughter. She takes out a photo of her daughter to show him. The two are standing so close that Shenanian realizes what she has done and feels a little embarrassed. She makes an excuse to leave and go back to the company. Lin Yao wants to ask her to have dinner with him, but she lies and says she is not hungry and leaves. A short while later, she came out of a hamburger shop and was about to eat when she awkwardly ran into Lin Yao again. Lin Yao saw the hamburger in her mouth. She saw the coffee in Lin Yao's hand, and both of them laughed. Lin Yao snatched the hamburger from her hand. After that, the two of them went out for a big meal. Shenanian saw Lin Yao choking on his food and instinctively picked up a tissue to help him wipe his mouth. Lin Yao was so embarrassed that he lowered his head and ate silently. Shenanian saw this and picked up a piece of crispy meat for him. At this moment, Boss Chen asked to see Liang Yuan again to invite her back to the company. He thought Liang Yuan would definitely agree to his generous offer. Liang Yuan smiled and said that Boss Chen didn't even verify the fake accounts. "Didn't you choose to question me so that I would bow to you?" Liang Yuan directly exposed the other party's trick. Besides, she had already found a new job with her own abilities. Shenanian and Lin Yao parted ways after dinner. Lin Yao guessed that Shenanian would turn around to look at him later. The next day, Boss Chen came to Shenanian and ordered a sports car. Shenanian was a little confused because the car was expensive and ugly. Unexpectedly, Boss Chen said that cars are like people, and one should not be fooled by appearances. The two laughed and signed the contract. Lin Yao saw this and became jealous. Shenanian saw that his stomach was hurting again and gave him his lunchbox to eat. Lin Yao cautiously took a bite and found it delicious. Shenanian saw this and said that if he wanted to eat it again, she could bring it every day. The two exchanged a meaningful glance, feeling that the moment was just right. Shenanian couldn't handle the awkwardness and stood up to leave. Sora saw Ren Yiming come home from work and walked up to him with a smile. She wanted Ren Yiming to take her to the candlelight dinner she had carefully prepared. She planned to keep him firmly in her grasp. However, Ren Yiming had long since grown tired of her. He asked her why she was no longer as gentle as she used to be. Seeing him so harsh, Sora sat down on a stool. However, she once again revealed her fierce gaze. When Ren Yiming came out of the shower, she had already changed her expression to a cute and obedient one. She asked Ren Yiming when he planned to divorce her. Ren Yiming angrily said not to mention it again. Sora said that for Ren Yiming, she could abandon the whole world and do anything. But Ren Yiming said he had a job and children and couldn't do that. Sora asked him what he would choose if they had a child. Ren Yiming stated that even if they had a child, it couldn't replace Lucy's place in his heart. If you're really pregnant, You should think about it. Sara heard this and immediately flew into a rage. She picked up a dinner knife and placed it behind Ren Yiming. If you don't divorce me, I'll haunt you forever and haunt everyone around you. If I can't live the life I want, none of you will either. At that moment, Ren Yiming's diaper was soaked. He really wanted to throw this crazy woman into a mental hospital. Ren Yiming was extremely angry at that moment. The next day, he accidentally overheard his subordinates talking about how Boss Chen had been frequently visiting a car dealership to buy a car from a housewife. Upon hearing that the president was targeting his wife, Ren Yiming was furious. They hadn't even divorced yet. Ren Yiming rushed to the car dealership and indeed saw the president there. He then reminded Shen Anan to be wary of Boss Chen, but Shen Anan didn't want to have anything to do with him. She had already given him the divorce papers. Whether Ren Yiming signed them or not, he would still come and interfere with her life. Ren Yiming said that he would not give up on Shen Anan. He was willing to give everything to win back Shen Anan's love. However, Shen Anan listened to his vows and turned to leave, but he grabbed her. At that critical moment, Lin Yao told Shen Anan to go attend to the customers. Ren Yiming wanted to chase after her but was blocked by Lin Yao. That night, Shen Anan's mother told her that Sora was pregnant. She was worried that Ren Yiming would mistreat Lucy because of this child. Ren Fei thought Sora was a disgusting, evil woman. Shen Anan wasn't surprised by this news at all. Miho said that regardless of whether Sora's pregnancy was real or not, she and Ren Yiming would not last long. Tomorrow was Lucy's parent-child day at kindergarten, and she really wanted her father to come. Ren Yiming had also made preparations early. However, Sara unexpectedly found out about this, so the next morning, when she pretended to be sick again to get Ren Yiming to stay and keep her company, Ren Yiming lied and said that he had urgent business at the company. Sora, unusually, didn't try to keep him. As soon as Ren Yiming left, Sora, who had been pretending to sleep, slowly opened her eyes and sat up. Soon, it was the time Shen Anan and Ren Yiming had agreed to meet. Just as they were about to leave for their daughter's school, they both received a video. It must be said that Sora was truly crazy. Shen Anan called Ren Yiming and told him to hurry over to check on Sora. She rushed to her daughter's school first. Lucy was devastated when she found out her father wasn't coming. That night, Ren Yiming immediately found Shen Anan. Shen Anan asked about Sora's condition and whether the baby was okay. Ren Yiming said Sora wasn't pregnant at all. He then told Shen Anan what had happened at the hospital earlier. Even the doctor suggested Ren Yiming take Sora to see a psychiatrist. When Sora woke up, Ren Yiming asked her why she lied to him. She said that it was the only way to make Ren Yiming divorce Shen Anan. Ren Yiming thought she was completely unreasonable. Sara continued to play the role of the evil woman. She asked Ren Yiming why Shen Anan could live in a villa while she could only live in an apartment. Ren Yiming said that only Shen Anan and Lucy were qualified to live there. Faced with Sora's continued unreasonable behavior, he said he wouldn't interfere anymore. If Sora dared to provoke Shen Anan and her daughter again, he would disappear. Later, Ren Yiming swore to Shen Anan that no matter what happened in the future, he would never hurt Shen Anan or their daughter again. But could this man be trusted? Then Shen Anan handed him another divorce agreement. She believed that separating was the best outcome for both of them and did not want their future to be filled with suspicion and distrust. The trust between them had been shattered, and she could no longer trust Ren Yiming as she once had. Ren Yiming feared that divorce would harm their daughter. Shen Anan urged him to reflect on the recent events. A month later, Ren Yiming finally came to his senses. On that day, he and Shen Anan successfully completed the divorce proceedings. Shen Anan was granted custody of their daughter, and both parties agreed to share child support. When he walked out of the hall, Ren Yiming hoped that he could remain friends with Shen Anan. That day, Shen Anan looked at the bed and breakfast she had booked for their wedding anniversary and sadly cancelled the reservation. However, the next day, the inn owner called to inform her that the policy did not allow refunds. Shen Anan thought about it and decided to take 3 days off to travel and relax. When Lin Yao heard about her divorce, he immediately agreed to her request. If 3 days weren't enough, she could take a few more days to clear her mind. Shen Anan revisited the place where she and her ex-husband had spent their honeymoon and unlocked the love lock they had placed there years ago. Then, she unexpectedly ran into an acquaintance at the guest house. She confronted Lin Yao, asking why he was there. Lin Yao pretended to be calm and said it was just a coincidence. There are no such things as coincidences in this world. It was all a coincidence that Lin Yao had planned long ago. Shen Anan spent 30,000 yuan and returned to work with renewed energy, gradually getting out of her slump. Lian Yuan found Shen Anan and hoped to work with her. If it was because of her child, she could bring him to the company and everyone would help take care of him. Shen Anan was very grateful and said she would consider it. Lian Yuan gave her a lot of encouragement. That day, the playboy Boss Chen came to find Shen Anan again. Not only did he buy a car for himself, but he also introduced his rich friend to Shananen. Bastian spent so much money just to get Shananen to treat him to a meal. Lin Yao asked him to race him in a car, so Bastian used Shananen as a bet in the race. Soon, the race began. With the roar of the engines, Bastian stepped on the gas and sped off. Lin Yao, however, did not drive but remained motionless at the starting line. Bastian didn't understand his behavior and thought he was being cheated. Lin Yao said he wouldn't let Shananen become a bet. Bastian thought Shananen was dazzling and had a magical aura. Being with her made him feel relaxed both mentally and physically. Lin Yao said he had seen Shananen's most vulnerable moments. A few days later, Liang Yuan found Bastian and warned him to stay away from Shananen. Bastian was speechless. He thought that after Liang Yuan left him, she not only changed jobs, but also changed her orientation. Liang Yuan smiled and said that Shananen was her future partner, so she didn't want Bastian to bother Shananen. Soon, it was time for the first day of recording. Shananen read the script early. However, when the recording began, she discovered that all the props on the set were fake. This made her feel very uncomfortable, and she made frequent mistakes during the recording. Fortunately, she managed to adjust in time. Shananen's life gradually returned to normal and became better and better. Meanwhile, Ren Yiming faced another setback. Due to Sora's prolonged absence from work, Bastian found a new secretary for Ren Yiming. Miho saw that it was another young girl and envied her greatly. Ren Yiming, who had just gotten divorced, was in no mood to joke around and left immediately. The new secretary was excellent in every way and was well liked by many people. Bastian called Ren Yiming into his office and told him to go back and warn Sora to pay attention to her attitude at work. If it weren't for the fact that Ren Yiming had already fired Sora, Ren Yiming reluctantly agreed. Soon after, he discovered that the new secretary, Su Kersen, was very enthusiastic about her work. Seeing this, Ren Yiming asked Su Kersen to accompany him to meet a client. Watching the two walk away, the two colleagues couldn't help but sigh. Su Kersen was very serious about her work and much more reliable than Sora. Sora arrived at work late and happened to run into the two on their way out to meet a client. When she saw that Ren Yiming was accompanied by a woman who was even prettier than herself, her eyes changed instantly. She went to her colleagues and asked who the woman was. Her colleagues said that she was the company's new secretary. Sora asked the two of them how they knew about this. The female colleague immediately became angry and asked Sora what kind of person she was. She asked why she had to report a personnel transfer within the company. Sora immediately said that she was Ren Yiming's girlfriend. The two colleagues were stunned. Soon after, Ren Yiming ran into Liang Yuan while meeting with a client. Liang Yuan told him that Shananen had become a well-known food blogger. Ren Yiming was surprised and couldn't hide his disappointment. Liang Yuan felt sorry for the two of them but could only wish Ren Yiming happiness in the future. Soon after, there was a high-level meeting at the company, and the general manager suggested replacing Shananen with a famous food anchor. Liang Yuan listened and strongly defended Shananen, saying that she should be given another chance. Her husband came home late every night, and his wife thought he was having an affair. So Ren Fei called her sister-in-law. Shananen advised her to calm down and wait for Miho to come home to ask him about it. So that night, Ren Fei treated her husband to a big meal. When she said, "Are you still lying to yourself?" her husband froze. Miho asked his wife why she was starting to doubt him again. Ren Fei changed her tune and said she was just joking. Then she asked her husband what he did last night. Miho lied and said he went to the hospital to visit Jack. Ren Fei naturally didn't believe him, so she called Jack. Jack cleverly cooperated with Miho. After hanging up, Ren Fei kept pouring alcohol into her husband's mouth. This was her backup plan. But even though her husband was drunk and unconscious, he still muttered that he would never do anything wrong. After making sure that her husband was fast asleep, Ren Fei quickly searched the car. When she didn't find anything incriminating, she breathed a sigh of relief. However, when she went to work the next day, Ren Fei realized that she had forgotten something important the day before, so she immediately skipped work and left the store. She went to the mall and bought herself a new outfit. Then Ren Fei went to her husband's company and planned to catch him in the act. Soon, she saw a woman get into her husband's car with her own eyes. This made her so angry that she followed the two of them to the door of a hotel. After waiting for the two of them to get out of the car, she rushed out. Miho tried to explain, but his wife interrupted him. Ren Fei was so angry that she pushed her husband into a nearby pool without giving him a chance to explain. At this moment, the woman in red behind her couldn't stand it anymore. She told Ren Fei that there was nothing going on between her and Miho. She had just called a car online and happened to run into them. At this moment, Ren Fei was completely confused. It turned out that she had misunderstood her husband. Miho felt that a marriage full of suspicion was meaningless and suggested that they separate for a while. Soon after, Ren Fei returned to the community in a daze. She asked the security guard if he had seen a man soaking wet return. The security guard told her that Miho always came back very late. Once, he even saw Miho squatting by the roadside counting money on his phone. After hearing the security guard's words, Ren Fei regretted her actions even more. She called her husband, but the call went unanswered. She knew she had truly broken her husband's heart this time. At work, Ren Fei was constantly being complained about by clients. When Lin Yao wanted to talk to her, she shouted at him. Ren Fei said that her husband wanted to divorce her, and she had no mood to work. Lin Yao handed her a business card and told her to go see the psychologist. Ren Fei followed the address on the card to find the doctor. To her surprise, the doctor immediately urged her to divorce. Ren Fei left the cafe in a rage, but after thinking it over, she returned. It turned out that the doctor had deliberately provoked her to make her realize what she really wanted. Sora immediately understood and found her husband. Miho immediately stopped his wife from jumping into the river. Ren Fei hugged her husband tightly and told him not to mention divorce again. Then she tore up the contract she had signed with her husband. In the past, her husband had always been good to her, so this time she should take the initiative. That day, Lin Yao got sick in the hotel. He couldn't get through on the phone, and he had an important meeting to attend. Shen Anan contacted the hotel security and planned to break down the door. At that moment, Lin Yao opened the door and asked Shen Anan if she cared about him. Shen Anan was embarrassed and couldn't say anything. Later in the meeting, Shen Anan noticed that Lin Yao was struggling to stand up. After the meeting, she asked him if he was okay and if he wanted to go to the hospital. At that moment, Shen Anan received a call from the kindergarten saying that Lucy had fallen off the swing. Upon hearing that Lucy was in trouble, Lin Yao endured her stomach pain and took Shen Anan to the school. She stayed at the hospital until late, constantly comforting Shen Anan. Finally, she collapsed from exhaustion. In the end, Lucy needed 14 stitches on her head. Lin Yao, on the other hand, had to be hospitalized for observation due to her chronic gastritis. At this time, Ren Yiming noticed that the new assistant was very attentive and capable at work. The male colleagues were also discussing how Ko Xian was a graduate of a prestigious university and had won scholarships every year. Sara heard this and was so angry she almost fainted on the spot. Later, she waited for the right moment and cornered Ku Xian in the restroom. Ku Xian wasn't someone to be bullied and told her to leave immediately. Ren Yiming, upon hearing about Lucy's injury, rushed to the hospital. Shen Anan asked Ren Yiming to take care of Lucy first while she went home to pack some things. However, as soon as Shen Anan left, Sara called Ren Yiming and asked him where he was. Ren Yiming said that Lucy was in the hospital and he was going to check on her, then hung up impatiently. Sora immediately called Shen Anan back and hurled insults at her. She accused Shen Anan of using the child to harass Ren Yiming and even cursed Lucy to die soon. Shen Anan told Sora to shut up and hung up the phone. She was furious and immediately returned to the hospital, demanding that Ren Yiming come back immediately and never see the child again. If Sora dared to say such things to the child again, she would not hesitate to take action. When Ren Yiming got home and saw Sora watching variety shows, he was furious. He warned Sora not to be unreasonable anymore, saying that Lucy was his bottom line. Sara told him to fire his new assistant immediately. Shen Anan, in order to take care of both patients more conveniently, asked the doctor to arrange for their rooms to be closer to each other. When Lin Yao heard that Shen Anan was going to take care of herself, he immediately pretended not to know anything. If you really want to thank me, you have to listen to me during this time, or I'll be angry. With Lin Yao's company, little Lucy also became happy. The next day, Lin Yao's mother came to the hospital to see her son and happened to run into Shen Anan and the two of them. Lin Yao complained that his mother didn't bring anything for him. Shen Anan left awkwardly. Lin Yao's mother looked at Shen Anan leaving and praised her for being thoughtful and said that her son had good taste. That day, Ren Yiming found Miho and asked him to take him to the hospital to see Lucy. Shen Anan saw the two of them and didn't say anything. Ren Yiming finally got to see his daughter. Shen Anan saw this and went to see her boss. Ran Fei was surprised at how quickly things had developed between the two. Shen Anan's concern for Lin Yao also made Ren Yiming jealous, so he timidly asked Shen Anan if she could not be so hasty. Shen Anan said that they were already divorced, and even if she started a new relationship, he had no right to interfere. That day, Ren Yiming and Sora attended the company's anniversary celebration together. Sora noticed that everyone was being friendly to the new assistant. What was even more infuriating was that in the employee award ceremony that followed, the company's cutest new employee was to be selected. Sora was about to go up to receive the award, but Boss Chen called out Su Kerson's name instead. However, at that moment, Su Kerson called out to Sora, Sora's sister. Sora was immediately upset. She felt that she and Sue Kirsten were about the same age. Then Sue Kirsten said in a sarcastic tone that she had been at the company for so long and had never seen Sora. Sora said awkwardly that she had taken sick leave. Then Sue Kirsten immediately pulled Ren Yiming onto the stage to dance. Sora was furious when she saw this. She immediately rushed onto the stage and scolded Sue Kirsten. Sue Kirsten said that Ren Yiming had danced very well just now. The colleagues were very happy to see Sora being bullied. Ren Yiming felt embarrassed and dragged Sora out of the venue. Sora was completely enraged and picked up the birthday cake Ren Yiming had bought for his daughter and smashed it on the ground. Ren Yiming was furious. It wasn't just the cake that was smashed, but also the promise he had made to his daughter. Lucy waited and waited for her father's cake, but instead, she received a car full of birthday presents from Lin Yao. Despite this, Lucy was still very sad and even thought about her father in her sleep. The next day, Boss Chen invited Ren Yiming out for a bike ride and told him he was fired. Ren Yiming refused to accept it and confronted Boss Chen, asking if it was because of Sora. Boss Chen explained that Sora's outburst at the party had a severely negative impact on the company. His actions were actually meant to help Ren Yiming. This was the only way to get Sora away from Ren Yiming. Once you lose your job and can't support Sora, she won't last long. At that moment, Sora was glaring angrily at Shen Ainen's live stream. A colleague called her to the boss's office. Boss Chen decided to fire Sora. Sora was furious and immediately showed her displeasure. Boss Chen then mentioned the incident where Sora framed Liang Yuan. Sora left the scene looking dejected. Miho urged Ren Yiming to break up with Sora immediately, but Ren Yiming said that even if he did so, he couldn't win Shen Ainen back. That day, he looked at the 16,000 yuan in his bank account and browsed rental listings online, planning to move to the suburbs and rent a smaller place. But just then, his girlfriend returned with 2 bags of luxury items. Ren Yiming was furious and asked her where she got the money. Sora casually said she used the credit card he gave her. Ren Yiming told her to be more frugal with money in the future. That day, Ren Yiming returned from an interview and saw his girlfriend looking lazy and unmotivated. Sora was so lazy that she didn't even want to order takeout. Ren Yiming told her to finish eating and pack her bags and leave immediately. Sora started being unreasonable again, asking him why they had to move. Ren Yiming said, "You have the nerve to ask me? It's because of you that I lost my job and am now in debt." Sora said, "I didn't come with you to suffer." As expected, Boss Chen's prediction came true. Ren Yiming didn't want to argue with her anymore and said, "If you've loved me, you can leave anytime." Liang Yuan was having trouble at work. His boss suggested replacing Shen Ainen. As for the military order Liang Yuan made at the last meeting, she could pretend she didn't hear it. But Liang Yuan said he wasn't joking. If Shen Ainen's program didn't work out, she would leave the company on her own accord. After several days of intense work, Shen Ainen noticed that Liang Yuan had a cold and didn't look well, so she thoughtfully prepared a pot of brown sugar ginger tea for Liang Yuan. Later, Liang Yuan and Shen Ainen discussed the program. She could tell that Shen Ainen's performance in the last program was different from her previous live streams. This was because the ingredients provided last time were all molds. Shen Ainen hoped to actually cook delicious food on the program for everyone to taste. Liang Yuan understood what Shen Ainen wanted. So, during the next recording, Liang Yuan instructed all the staff present to cooperate with Shen Ainen. A colleague asked who would be responsible if there were any mistakes. Liang Yuan said that she would take full responsibility. She then encouraged Shen Ainen to go ahead and do her best, saying that even if she failed, she shouldn't be afraid. With the encouragement of her daughter and sisters, Shen Ainen's program recording was a great success. The response after the broadcast was also very positive, receiving widespread praise from most viewers. That evening, Lin Yao saw Shen Ainen still working overtime at the company and voluntarily stayed to help her finish. Suddenly, the sound of fireworks erupted outside. The two looked up excitedly, but Ren Yiming turned around abruptly, nearly kissing Shen Ainen. Shen Ainen blushed and didn't know what to say. Lin Yao kept staring at Shen Ainen. "Here, look, you're staring at Shen Ainen so much that you even typed the wrong words." Shen Ainen's life was getting better and better, and many fans came to her to buy cars. However, an unexpected incident occurred that day. The kindergarten teacher told her that Lucy had gotten into a fight with other children at school. Lucy had changed a lot in the past few months, becoming less talkative and more stubborn. Sometimes she would even tear up other children's notebooks. Hearing this from the teacher, she thought Lucy was just like Sora. Shen Ainen had been so busy with work recently that when the teacher called her, Lucy's grandmother answered the phone. That was why she only found out about this now. Shen Ainen bought a new pencil case for Lucy to compensate her classmate and apologize. However, Lucy cried and said she wanted her father to accompany her. She felt that her mother was not letting her see her father. Shananen now has to face the harm that a single-parent family can cause to a child. But she has no choice. She needs to work to earn money to support her child and the family. At night, Shananen searches online for information about single-parent families. She discovers that in severe cases, children may even resort to self-harm or other extreme behaviors. Shananen seeks help from a psychologist, who turns out to be Lin Yao's mother. Lin Yao's mother tells her that divorce is a matter between two adults. Adults can often heal themselves, but children cannot. To help heal Lucy's emotional wounds, Lin Yao's mother suggested that Shananen encourage her ex-husband to spend more time with the child during his free time. Lin Yao learned about this from his mother and immediately took time off work to join Shananen and her daughter for a camping trip. The mother and daughter had a wonderful time. Afterwards, Lin Yao used his own childhood experience to hint to Shananen that Lucy would soon adapt to her new environment. But he was not Lucy's father after all. Shananen hoped that Lucy could have a happy and healthy environment to grow up in. She might need to face Ren Yiming again. So the next day, she called Ren Yiming and asked him to come over. She wanted to explain Lucy's situation to Ren Yiming. Ren Yiming wanted to make up for his mistakes and planned to spend some time with Lucy. Shananen agreed, but she wouldn't let Sora near the child. That day, the family had planned to take Lucy out for a big meal. When Lin Yao saw how happy Lucy's family was, he immediately became angry. Ren Yiming immediately told Lin Yao how well he had taken care of Shananen. He then added that they were going out to eat as a family. Lin Yao stood there dumbfounded, clenching her fists. Sora, seeing the happy family, began to scheme again. Boschan was trending on social media due to some comments made by women. He fired the entire marketing team and hired a new PR team at a high salary. The man said that besides you apologizing, you could also find a popular women's show to sponsor. Lin Yao told his mother that he had a friend who confessed his feelings to a woman with a child. The woman asked him if he would mind seeing her ex-husband often, and his friend didn't know how to respond. Lin Yao thought he was ready to be a father, but now he was torn because Shananen had rejected him. Shananen had just returned home when she found Sora in her house. Sora even provoked her, saying she would move back in soon. Soon after, Ren Yiming rushed back, grabbed Sora, and dragged her outside. Sora frantically shook off Ren Yiming and went to Shananen to vent. She said that Ren Yiming had the right to live in this house. Ren Yiming said it was Shananen and Lucy's house, and she had no right to live there. Lin Yao was so angry that Shananen didn't want to make their relationship public that he disappeared. Shananen didn't expect that her indecision would almost cause her to lose Lin Yao forever. After Sora was discharged from the hospital, she was kicked out by her landlord again. At this point, she was like a walking corpse, with no spark in her eyes. Although Lin Yao had left, he had created a social media account specifically for Shananen. Every time he went somewhere, he would record the beautiful moments there. Shananen would open it whenever she thought of him. Of course, every time he went to a new place, Shananen would receive a gift sent back by Lin Yao. Lin Yao even specially commissioned a local handicraft workshop to sew a bag for Shananen. Although his skills weren't great, Shananen still smiled happily. Looking at her boyfriend's handsome selfies, Shananen missed him even more. That day, as she was looking at Lin Yao's desk, she suddenly froze. A colleague told her someone was looking for her downstairs. Shananen saw the person holding flowers and was thrilled. She thought it was Lin Yao returning, but it turned out to be her ex-husband. After that, the two went out for lunch together. Shananen asked him to come home in the evening to put the children to bed. Ren Yiming was overjoyed to hear this, but when he saw Shananen smiling so happily because of Lin Yao's selfie, he knew that he didn't stand a chance anymore. Shananen wanted to tell him that she missed him. Lin Yao saw half of it and got up excitedly, planning to return to China. But because he was looking down at his phone, he got into a car accident. Several days passed, and Shananen still hadn't received a reply from Lin Yao. Shananen said it was all his fault for lingering too long. In fact, he had already taken 99 steps. When I took that step, I didn't know which direction he was in anymore. Liang Yuan told her that she had also met someone like that before. He was very good to me, but I didn't want to make a commitment to him, so I kept him waiting. When my career was better, maybe I would be willing to commit to him, but then he left. Liang Yuan felt that as long as she became more and more like him, she would meet countless people like him. But until now, she hadn't met anyone else. I seriously suspect that Liang Yuan was talking about Ren Yiming. Liang Yuan told Shananen that if Lin Yao was really the right person, she should go find him no matter what. Sara came to Shananen's door but didn't have the courage to go in and say goodbye. She now knew who really cared about her, and that she had hurt him time and time again. On this day, Shen Anan and Liang Yuan were broadcasting their new show live. Shen Anan had received a lot of help from many people when he was at his worst and most helpless. He was given a new lease on life and became the confident person he is today. Afterwards, Liang Yuan said that he had invited a mystery guest. Looking at the blurry silhouette behind the screen, Shen Anan thought it was his boyfriend Lin Yao who had returned. But when the screen opened, the person who appeared was Ren Yiming. Ren Yiming said that the only mistake he had ever made in his life was one that could never be forgiven. This mistake had cost him everything he had. Some mistakes, once made, could never be undone. So the only thing he could do now was to help a friend fulfill their wish. As soon as Ren Yiming finished speaking, Lin Yao's voice appeared on the large screen behind Shen Anan. I've had some terrible experiences with love, so I don't believe in it anymore. But then I met a woman. Lin Yao confessed his feelings to the audience. Shen Anan couldn't help but cry and laugh at the same time. Before the show even ended, Shen Anan rushed to the airport to pick up Lin Yao. From then on, the two lived a carefree and uninhibited life.